right. Well, now it's time to hear from some more talented young people tonight. Some people who are here to talk about what involvement in youth media programs and organizations has meant for them. So let's get our panelists to the stage to join us here. She's a sixth grader at Burr Elementary and a participant in street-level youth media. Please welcome Nani Sherrill, please. A senior at Roberto Clemente High School and a participant in Community TV Network, Alex Velasquez. A 19-year-old journalism major at Columbia College, an alum of True Star, Alex Stockstone. A sophomore at Columbia College and alum of the Columbia Links program, Nader Ihmoud. And finally tonight, a Pritzker Fellow at Chicago Public Media and alum of Young Chicago authors, Lucretia Burtz. Now, to lead and to moderate tonight's special panel discussion, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce one of Chicago's legendary journalists, a champion of truth and integrity here in this city and across the country, also a believer in the potential of our city's young people, and a very dear colleague of mine here at NBC5. Please welcome Carol Marin.
So let's kick this off this way. Nani, as the youngest person here, what was the moment when you said, media will be mine?
I think it was when I took my first picture. It was of a stray cat on my porch. I was 2 years old.
Wow. Alex?
Well, when I started, I remember I used to always use my mom's camera because I used to love watching the camera angles. And then since then, that's when I was like, that's it. I want to be in this.
Other Alex?
It started when I decided to walk into my first True Star editorial meeting and decided to submit my first abstract to my editor. And he just read it, looked up at me and said, wow, you got it.
Nader?
When I realized I couldn't become a professional athlete and I could, and I can have a job covering professional athletes.
See, there sometimes it's what you can't do that tells you what you can do. Lucretia?
I wrote my first feature about violence when I was working for Young Chicago Authors, and it was the first moment when I felt like I had power. Instead of just talking about the effects, I was able to report about it, and it felt good.
You all know who Bob Dylan is? Bob Dylan, I'm glad about that. But Bob Dylan said at one point in his life, he never trusted anyone over 30 until he turned 31. This building is establishment media, and it's full of an awful lot of people who are over 31. Do you trust establishment media? Nader?
I go by that saying, trust everybody. Don't trust anybody, even your mother. Ask twice, keep asking.
If your mother tells you she loves you, check it out?
Yes, that's exactly what I go by. So when it comes to mainstream media and everything, I like to look at several different sources before I make up my mind on something.
Alex Conkstow?
I think that personally, I feel like, a lot of media gets a bad rep because everybody just thinks that, they just have a certain bias. And that makes me, as a young person, and other young people feel like it's not worth listening to. And I think that a lot of people over 30 that I see in,
You
in
were
the
looking
news
at
media,
me, way over 30.
yeah, I think that they have had too much opinion and haven't decided to want to be in the middle and look at both sides. So that's what I think.
Do you have bias, Alex Velasquez?
What do you mean?
When you look at something, do you feel that you can be objective? Can you step back and see it? Or do you bring yourself to it?
Well, sometimes I bring myself to it because, you'll never know. Because, there's a lot of things that are biased. I'll say, for example, the internet and TV, you'll say one thing and the TV will say another, so you have to see for yourself to actually believe it.
Lucretia, you're working at Chicago Public Radio, right? Have you learned in your experience there that there are some things that for the privilege of being a reporter you can't do as a normal citizen?
Definitely. I did my first feature a couple of weeks ago, and it was about older activists commenting on the Occupy movement. And I got to talk to Reverend Jesse Jackson and Bill Ayers and all these amazing activists, you know, who I read about in history books. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't with the media. So I definitely agree with that. There is privilege, yes.
But if they said, what is your opinion of this or that, would you put it on the radio?
Well, I'm learning that as a professional journalist, that it's not always accurate to put your opinion, because it will stop your listeners from hearing you, because they'll think you're biased. And so I'm learning to stop being so opinionated, or just taking a step back. I'm learning to do that now.
Could you, if you were a journalist, put out an Obama yard sign? Nani?
I'm sorry, what?
So let's say, as you go about your work, let's say it is journalism, let's say you're doing a story. Could you have an Obama yard sign out if you are covering political stories?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not really sure.
That's okay. But there is a conversation about that, right? And all of you have begun to kind of hear where you can go and where you can't. All social media, do you all tweet?
Yes.
Okay, Facebook?
Facebook.
Yep, what else?
Tumblr.
Tumblr?
Yes, YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. For all the things that social media can do and you can do with it, is there anything that any of you worry about you can't do or is a problem with social media?
Well, I'll say, like, since I've become a journalist or a reporter at WBEZ, I'm learning that I can't always put whatever like my personal experiences on Facebook. And at first it kind of disturbed me, you know, because I'm from a generation where we just want to share everything. And some things are not to be shared.
Can you give me an example?
Well, like my opinion of Obama or the election. If I want to report about that, is it professional for me to go blasting my opinion? Like I said, you want people to hear you, so sometimes you have to step back and not provide an opinion or a bias.
Any of the others, have you learned some of those things that worry about social media?
Sometimes you have to be professional. Like she said, you have to be careful what you say, because sometimes people interpret it in a different way, even though you don't mean it like that.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, let me think of something.
If you can't, not a problem.
I'm
But
trying to think. I mean, let me see. You know, I'll pass.
because you've done documentaries, you've worked at WGN, right?
Yeah.
Anything there happen that you would say, I better be careful how I say this?
Okay, like sometimes when I get nervous, like I'll get like real pissed. You know, like I said, you have to be professional. You can't show it. Like, so that was one of my things. And I remember, like, if you say your opinion and you get criticism, you have to take it as positive. You just can't be like, whatever. And you gotta be like, okay. It should help you to make you do better for yourself. So that's one of my opinions.
Nana, you've done some work on the Occupy movement, right?
Yes.
And tell us about that. Like, what are you doing at Occupy?
Well, we were asking people what they would do with $1 trillion, because it was this program. We were talking about how the U.S. government spends every year like $1 trillion on this war that we're having in, correct me if I'm wrong, Iraq, right? So
Iraq, Afghanistan, yep.
So we're asking people what they would do with that money while we're spending it on this war. How could we use it to make our society as a whole better? How can we use it to make our schools better? Because we're the future. It's our path. We need to be able to know everything we can and be able to absorb as much knowledge as we can.
And were you surprised with the answers? Did you get good answers?
Yes, I got really good answers. How people were saying how they would want to help the Chicago Board of Education try to get more textbooks, and how just besides that, like, I agree with them when they say try to make our community safer.
Do you worry or do you see things, and I'd like to hear from each of you on this. Why don't we start with Lucretia? Are there things that you fear are going to hold you back
What can you say?
in your career, in your plan, in your mission, in your future?
What do I fear will hold me back?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough question. can I pass for a minute?
That's all right.
Okay.
Take a pass, Nader.
Well, I feel if there's not the opportunity to get to where I want to be, and it usually takes the generations ahead of us to give us that opportunity. And if that's what I fear that maybe they're not going to have trust in us to hand us over the reins. So that's a fear.
Alex?
To backpack everything he just said, it's kind of the same way I was thinking. Opportunity. Are you going to give it to me or not? And it needs to be the idea of that. Let's push off the ageism a little bit and say, look, we're going to try and we're going to give it to you. Especially if you're people like us who have bodies of work to show. Why not? Why not do something crazy and hire a 19-year-old to work? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. Because I look at the Alex Hayeses and I look at the Chris Hayeses and Alex Wagner's on MSNBC, and I say they're young and somebody just gave them the opportunity. Whether they could be doing everything wrong as a broadcast person on
And
TV.
sometimes they are.
Right. But it's just that for me as a young person, to see somebody that young, it makes me feel good, and it makes what they're talking about in the news, it makes it exciting.
Alex?
Okay, well, sometimes, like what they both said, like, you have to take risks. And one thing, like, that kind of fears me is race. Because when people see a Hispanic or a black person, the first thing they think is, oh, they live in the ghetto or they're gangbangers and stuff. So to prove them wrong and show them, you know, it just doesn't matter what color or race, you take a risk because you never know until you try. And you can't be scared. You can't be scared to leave your hood. But you have to, like, explore other things, you know. And if you try, you like it, anything can happen. Nothing's never possible. It's never impossible.
But those fears are real.
Yes.
Nani?
I agree with what all three of them have to say because it's true. Maybe they don't like what we have to say about certain things. They don't want to hear our opinion. So maybe they decided, oh, I don't agree with this, so I'm not going to give you that chance.
Lucretia?
Well, I think that the thing that's going to hold me back is myself, you know, how much work I put into this and just like my work ethic. I feel like if I'm passionate about something, I'm going to find a way. And if I truly want it, then yeah, I'm going to find a way.
What you're learning, whether it's journalism or technology or the cultural stuff that you're doing, the sports that you're doing, there are other things that you're learning on top of it, right? I mean, there's some real life lessons you guys are getting. Can you, each of you, tell us something that either surprised you, that you learned, what your life lesson has been, just beyond the journalism of it? Yeah, Nani?
Can I pass?
You may pass.
I'm
Alex,
passing that one too.
you're passing on that one. Alex, are you passing also?
No, I'll take this. I think you'll be surprised. You know, with these type of programs actually help you with the little social networks we're on. It helps you learn how to use them better. Honestly, I think that I know it's probably people that I have friends that are on Twitter that don't know how to, you know, attach a photo to their tweet. They don't know how to embed a video into their tweet, and it's little things like that you learn from here, or just having somebody that's media based behind you, that also make, you know, outside of doing my job, you know, with TrueStar, it also makes my personal life fun to use. And I'll add one more thing too. Media and journalistic style writing is going to help you tremendously in school. If you are a person who's already going out and finding stories and talking to people and stuff like that already, that's going to make it easier for you to do that little report assignment about, you know, World War II or something like that. Because honestly, it's just going to, it's going to be something that's fun for you, and you can actually have an opinion that you've learned from, you know, your supervisors who have been in the field, and have a more opinion. And when your teacher's reading that, you can be like, wow, you sure you didn't get this off of a website or something? Do I need to?
Nader, life lessons for you?
Being tossed into the fire, not knowing. I've several events, sporting events, where I don't know where I'm going, who I'm meeting, but I'm talking to these PR people, and I'm learning how to interact with people that I've never met before.
And are you having to try to convince them to let you
Yeah,
in, to give you access?
Convince them that the Columbia Chronicle is worthy of covering their event.
That is, honestly, God, that is a great life lesson. Lucretia?
Well, I've learned to work with adults as allies and partners. Often at school, you refer to your teacher as a superior, but my experience working with youth organizations they've given me power to explore my interests, and they help me get there versus them telling me like an assignment, like what to do. I get to decide what I want to do. So I learned to come to them as a partner in exploring my interests.
What an interesting thing to talk about adults as allies, isn't it? All right, we have, according to Jeff McCarter, about 45 seconds. I just want one word from each of you on what are you going to bring to the business that many of us are in that we need to have and maybe don't have enough of. Nani?
Different points of view from not just two different sides, but maybe from different races, from different genders, from all different sides completely, not just one specific side.
Alex, quick.
Okay, well, I like to actually like tell the truth, and I don't want. And one thing is that like sometimes the news they tell us what we want to hear, and there's things like they don't want to tell the public, which I think is not fair because we're the ones that pay taxes, and our voices are the ones that are heard. So.
Other Alex.
Um,
Again, fast answer.
For people to have ideas past just being liberal or conservative, for people to look and read something and just start being open-minded, more open-minded people, more open-minded thinking people, so we can be forward-thinking Americans.
Nader?
Passion.
Lucretia?
That'll work.
Good answer, Nader.
A native Chicagoan insight.
Good for you. Good for you. Absolutely. Simply superb. My partner, Stephen Holt, is in the audience. We're going to take a few questions from the audience to you up here before we go to our next part of this program. Stephen.
There are a lot of us in this room who grew up without cell phones, before there was Facebook. We have watched the media landscape change. People like you, we look at you and think, you were born into this. You're media natives. What do you say to the grown folks who would ask you, or who would say to you, you don't understand the power of media? What would you say in response?
You didn't teach us well enough.
Lucretia?
I would say, of course we do. I mean, we're driving we're the driving forces behind Facebook and Twitter. You know, young people use this more than anybody I know, and we're learning to use it fast and quick. And of course we know.
Steph, another question?
I think we had another question over here. Do you have a question?
And I wanted to know from the young people, in their opinion, where is media getting it right when it comes to youth, and where are they getting it wrong?
Nani?
I guess they would, they would think maybe media would think that we don't know what's going on right now, so they don't like question or to ask us our opinion, I guess.
You think your voice isn't heard. Alex?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the bad thing is that they're closing a lot of media things. And like she said, you know, they don't, like they look at us, oh, we're kids, we don't know nothing, so it's like our voices are not heard. But, you know, we have passion and we're determined.
Other Alex?
I think they think media is for old people. So they're not giving us the opportunity by putting these stuff in our schools and stuff, 'cause they think like they don't care about news, they don't care about having an opinion in that manner. Like it's for us, because we think about politics and stuff, and me as a 19-year-old doesn't ever open up a Chicago Tribune or USA Today.
Or sometimes.
Or sometimes, or watch NBC News, or even Fox News, so,
Good.
hey.
Other Stephen?
There's Stefan right here. Here's
Other
another
Stefan.
question right here in the middle.
What story as Chicagoans do you think isn't being told? What stories do you wish that the media would report on from your viewpoint?
Why don't you just run down, quick topic for each of you. Nani?
The violence in the community.
Alex?
Like I said earlier, the actual truth, letting us know what we should know instead
Alex?
of telling us.
Education in general,
Native?
period.
After school activities for the youth.
Lucretia?
Things that you interest you, period.
Say that one more time. You
Things that interest you.
Good. Thank you all. Thank you all.